The Checkpoints is presented by GM Pharma, the first international and multinational pharmaceutical corporation in Georgia.
Galt and Taggart will further analyze Georgia's wine market and perspectives following a very thorough report on this sector that was published last week.
Can we say that this market in Georgia has shown resilience during the pandemic period?
You know that 2020 was quite a tough year for Georgian economy as for the rest of the world. The economy contracted by 6.2%, and most of the sectors have recorded severe losses. However, the Georgia's wine and spirits sector showed resilience to COVID-19, and the turnover of the sector was only down by 2.1%. That was actually mainly due to the stable exports of wine and spirits from Georgia. As for the local market, pandemic affected the market negatively, the turnover generated from the local market almost halved in 2020. That was due to the halt in tourism. You know that the cafes, restaurants, bars, and etc. were closed in this year, and this resulted into the contraction of the local market. However, the local market actually accounts for low share in total turnover of this sector, so this did not have the effect on the stability of the sector in 2020.
So, Tatia, based on a very thorough and very interesting report that Galt and Taggart had on this sector, on Georgia's wine sector, what would you identify as main figures that show the trend of development of this sector in Georgia?
85% of the revenue stream comes from the export markets, and in recent years, you know that most of the exports are going to Russia, and we are still dependent on Russia and post-Soviet countries. However, our National Wine Agency of Georgia is trying to increase the popularity of Georgian wine in new target export markets like Baltic states, Poland, Japan, China, and etc. So the exports are increasing in these countries, and this also helps to the sector stability.
Yes, 58% was my main figure as well, Tatia, and that's the dependency on Russian market. Definitely. Can we explain a little bit and elaborate a little bit on why that creates problems and challenges for the sustainability and for the profitability in the long run?
Yeah, sure. For the sector that is dependent on the exports, it is this is not beneficial to be dependent on a single country. In this case, to Russia, and considering the negative effects of 2006 years embargo that Russia imposed to us, and considering the general unpredictability related to this country, we believe that diversification will be quite beneficial for the long-term development of the sector. Besides, Russia is our largest export market. However, it is the cheapest. We have identified 4 types of Georgian wine that is exported from Georgia: Safaravia, Lazani, Tinto Maraulian, etc. And these 4 types of wines account for 75% of Georgian exports. And Russia is the cheapest country for all these varieties. Average price of these varieties is almost 2 times lower in Russia than, for example, in USA, and 1.3 times lower than in China. So Russia, on one hand, is our largest export market, but it is the cheapest.
Sorry for interrupting, but probably quality has to also play some role in this, right?
Yeah, sure. Not only the quality, but we have actually interviewed some of the top players in this sector to identify the main reasons why we are still dependent on Russia and why we cannot get shares in new target export markets. And the one thing is that Russian customers know Georgian wine quite well. They love Georgian wine. They know Georgian. Need some marketing expenses to popularize Georgian wine in Russian market. Besides, they know Georgian quality and they like the quality of Georgian wine, and this is also beneficial. But as I have already mentioned, this is the cheapest country for us. So we have to work on the quality of wine, and we have to increase our marketing expenses to new target export markets to increase our exports to these countries.
We look at this market overall. On the one hand, it is the market that is quite profitable, probably the most profitable in Georgia. But on the other hand, it is still in one way or another is dependent on subsidies. How do you explain this?
Actually, this sector is one of the most profitable sectors. The gross profit margin of the sector stands at 30%. That is 1.4 times higher than the average of the business sector in Georgia. And operating profit margin also stands at 20%. That is also higher than the average of the business sector. So this is the profitable sector. However, we have analyzed the trends in last 10 years, and the profitability is reducing in recent years. And the main reason of this is that the sector is supported by the government through different kinds of subsidies and purchases of excess production from the market. And this incentivizes many small companies to enter to the market. And these companies are usually small and inefficient, and they are dragging down the overall profitability of the sector, because we have also analyzed the profitability metrics of top 10 companies in the sectors, and we have seen the average weighted average EBITDA and gross profit margins of these top companies, and they are stable while the average profitability of the sector is on the downward trajectory.
Also, Georgia's wine making has the story, right? The marketing story. 8,000 years is a very good starting point. Probably you would agree. But still, in this case, we also see problems, and we see that government and taxpayers' money is being involved in this direction as well. What is Galt and Taggart's take on this? What should be the government's role in promoting Georgian wine?
On one hand, as I have already mentioned, as government subsidizes the sector, many people like this. This results sometimes into the low quality of the grapes. You know that the major part of the vineyards in Georgia are owned by households, and as they know that if their quality of the grapes will not meet the standards, they can still sell these grapes, so they do not have the incentive to improve the quality of their grapes, and this results into the low quality of our grapes and low productivity. Per hectare, grape yield per hectare in Georgia is like 2 times lower than the world average, and this is also the problem in the sector. So on another hand, government has initiated the program to co-finance the marketing expenses to some companies that are trying to increase their exports to new target export markets, excluding Russia and CIC. And we believe that this is a quite good initiation to support these companies, because the companies themselves are fearing to lose their investments, and many of them are this fact deters many of the companies to enter new markets. And we believe that this kind of support from the government will be more beneficial for the sector in the long-term development, because this will lead to greater exports to new markets and reduce our dependability on Russia. And this will also increase our popularity in Georgian wine popularity in more expensive and non-traditional markets.
And my last question, and to sum up and to round up our conversation, what are like top priority recommendations from Galt and Taggart to this sector?
We think that the top priority for the sector should be the reorientation from Russia. As I have already mentioned, this market is like unpredictable. And if you also remember the 2006 embargo, we should try to increase the share of new target markets, as I have already mentioned, in our exports. And also we should try to improve our grape quality as well as the wine quality in order to have the potential to compete with those top producing wine and world's top wine producers like Spain, Italy, France, Chile, Australia, etc., who we compete with in new target export markets.
The Checkpoints is presented by GM Pharma, the first international and multinational pharmaceutical corporation in Georgia.